we'll do the live thing first. Like. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time to the show, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. Like I said to all of our first-time listeners, if you like the show, please rate us. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter at the Bigmark Pod. You can reach us there. Always shoot us a DM if you want to hear any new topics for episodes, or just let us know what you think. Rate the episode if you can, wherever you're listening or watching. Hit the bell if you're on YouTube. Make sure you get the notifications when we drop a new video. And, if you like the podcast, tell a friend. If you tell one friend, we'll double the podcast overnight. That's what we always like to say. I'm just wanted to shout out Scott Barker. He does our sign here. If you're watching on the YouTube, you can see Scott at Haven and Graves at Huntsville made our beautiful sign here. He used laser beams to make it, and soon he's going to be laser beaming kicks because he's that sick. Anyway, shout out, brother. Thank you so much for your support and giving us that sign. And again, it always shines brightly here in each episode. This one's a little bit for the sports fans. Shout out sports fans. In light of the excitement that's building here in Hamilton, Ontario, for the 108th Grey Cup. So for our international listeners, and for anyone who doesn't give a shit, the CFL championship is the Grey Cup. It's a 108th Grey Cup. So I think the Super Bowls are they in the sixth? No. Man, shows you how much I know. They're like in the 50. They're well into the 50s or 60s. So the Grey Cup's been around much longer. In fact, the Yates Cup, just as a fun fact, the Yates Cup, which is the Ontario Conference University Championship trophy, is the oldest football trophy in North America, which is pretty jokes. I think the Grey Cup's pretty much up there too, pretty close. But the excitement that's building in the city is due to the fact that the Hamilton Tiger Cats, which is our home team, is actually playing in the national championship. So super exciting. It's kind of funny mirroring last year's Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shout out B-Rye and the Kansas City Chiefs going toe to toe. At home in Tampa Bay's home stadium, with Tampa Bay winning. So hopefully it also mirrors that. If you're listening to this after the Grey Cup, I guess this is going to be kind of, who knows, hopefully it's a good time. Anyway, like I said, it's at home. It's at Tim Hortons Field, which is here in Hamilton. It's the Hamilton Tiger Cats versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So Hamilton Tiger Cats are 10-6 this season. Obviously they won the East Division, but I think they were tied for third at one point, maybe tied for third in the league. At least they clinched their playoff berth. So they were playing pretty strong into the season, but the Blue Bombers are the best team in the league. They're 12-3. They've been playing really strong. I'm not going to go too much into the current personnel because, again, it's going to be a super exciting game. And, again, depending on when you're listening to this, you might know the outcome already, and hopefully it's a Tie-Cat victory. Like I said, the city is amped up. There's parties going all around, different bars here and there. The Grey Cup officially, I think it was today or yesterday. Anyway, the Grey Cup is officially in Hamilton right now. The Mounties brought it up and did all that shit. And, excuse me. And, it's really interesting feeling this vibe coming up. And, it's really exciting in the fact that obviously a hometown hosting and, the Hamilton Tiger Cats are really near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, including mine, of course. And, it's really exciting. Tim Hortons, all the Tim Hortons restaurants in town, are going to be using gray cups as their coffee cups. So they're literally gray in color, which is jokes. There's going to be a halftime show featuring the Arkells, which is a huge Hamilton band. Everyone loves their Arkells. In fact, I went to go see a concert there at the stadium. They played the Rally, and we all went, and it was super fun. And it was at Tim Hortons Field, and the Arkells put on a great show. Maybe some stories left for another podcast. Anyway, and the Lumineers are going to be playing along with the Arkells, which is going to be super cool. Lumineers are a really fun band. Should be a nice little show. So, like I said, I didn't want to go into too much like today's or the game coming up or today's personnel that's on the team and go through all that stuff. I went to we went to a game this season, and it was super fun. And yeah, I mean, they ended up losing actually. Shoot. Anyway, but shout out Sean Jameson, shout out Dave Brown, boys on the Montreal Alouettes that unfortunately beat the Cats that day. But it was a fun game to be at. Like I said, I kind of want to just talk about the team a little bit more, a little bit about the history of the Tiger Cats and, how they are today, and a little bit of kind of, what they mean to me. I mean, being a homegrown Hamiltonian, I know I've had many experiences watching Ticats games, being around their stadiums, doing all that fun stuff. So like I said, a little history about the team. So they didn't start out necessarily as the Ticats as we know today. They started out as the Hamilton Football Club, which was actually founded in 1869, which is wild. They were playing against like Canadian regiments, soldiers and shit. In 1872, they started playing at Hamilton AAA grounds, which apparently had like big cement stands that are no longer there. The AAA grounds are in a really nice little neighborhood here in Hamilton. There's still a track there. There's still a little playground. When I was playing for the Hamilton Hurricanes, that's where we actually used to practice, was at the AAA. So since 1872, I was there in 2008. So there's been a lot of football being played in that area, which is it's always fun to be somewhat close to that history. They began the team actually became known as the Tigers. So they were before they were just Hamilton Football Club. They became known as the Tigers in 1873. Now, back in 1873, they weren't really playing football, American football or whatever you want to call it, the way we know it today. Essentially, they were playing rugby, and they had kind of a little bit more sophisticated pads, and the rules were slightly different. Honestly, I didn't do so much research into the actual differences between rugby and that rugby that they were playing. Like, even again, when I was talking about the Yates Cup being so old, all those teams were playing quote unquote rugby. So, again, it was kind of a different style of sport, but still what we would consider football. I think they allowed a forward pass back in those days, which is obviously different than contemporary rugby. But yeah, so different kind of thing, but generally they're playing football back in these days. So they were slugging away for a bit. It took them until 1913 to win their actual first Grey Cup. I think the first Grey Cup was like, well, obviously the 108th was like whatever, 1905 or whatever, something like that. Anyway, sorry, I'm shit at math, but early 1900s. So the Grey Cup's been around for a long time, and they actually won 4 more before World War One. Obviously, a lot of guys that are probably going to be playing football are also probably going to be fighting in wars. They're athletic. They're fucking getting after it. Not to say any sport is even close to what war is like, but I've always imagined football to be fairly close to being what it would kind of feel like to be doing, like at least like ancient kind of warfare, not necessarily with guns and anything, but at least like, just like hand to hand, just getting after it. So obviously a lot of these guys are going to go to war. They won a couple Grey Cups in the late 1920s, and then they won in 1932. At this point, the Tigers, coming into 1941, the Tigers suspended play because of World War II. Again, lots of athletes, lots of these guys are getting. This is during conscription too, so a lot of these guys are going. But most of these guys are volunteering anyway. It just made sense. The team folded because so many players actually joined the armed forces. So the Tigers were no longer playing in the league at that point. So the Hamilton Flying Wildcats were formed with some players, some remaining players that stuck around from the Tigers. I'm assuming that were either too old or too young, or had some other issue that they couldn't go to the go into the services. And then some members of the Royal Canadian Air Forces too. So I think that's what the flying part of the Flying Wildcats was. So they actually won the 31st Grey Cup in the 40s there. So that's really interesting. In fact, sometimes the current Ticats, when they do like their retro uniforms, they'll put on those Wildcats uniforms, and they're red and black and white. So and the reason being is that the Tigers they knew that they were going to come back, and they kind of were like, listen, you guys can be the Hamilton team, but you can't take the yellow and black. Yellow and black is really interesting in Hamilton. It's interesting. I've never really thought too much into the fact that, why it is, because like you can look at Pittsburgh too, which is a very similar city to Hamilton, steel town, working class. You got the Steelers, you got the Penguins, you got the Pirates. They're all red. They're all yellow and black. I guess Boston Bruins are yellow and black, but I guess there's like some weird brown in there. But the Patriots are not like that. And then the Celtics obviously aren't like that. And then the Red Sox. So it's interesting that, again, Pittsburgh being a city very similar to Hamilton, and it's actually a very interesting city too. Maybe I'll do another episode on Pittsburgh alone. I've been there a couple times. We played a show down there with the band, which is really fun. But it's that same vibe where it's like it was a booming city, when it was happening. I guess in the 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s and shit, when they were making steel, getting after it, beautiful architecture and stuff. And then they had a huge decline when they kind of decentralized steel production, and the city suffered, and now it's kind of experiencing a bit of a boom again. Like I said, very similar to Hamilton. So again, why yellow and black? I don't know if it's something to do with the fucking yellow hard hats and the black soot from the fucking, you know what I mean? Like, who knows how they fucking pick these shits? It looks good together. There's no doubt about it. Wiz Khalifa fucking thought so too. So, he's from Pittsburgh, and God damn it, he fucking understands that black and yellow looks really good together. And, but like, I used to swim competitively, like when I was a little kid, like I think when I was 9 and 10, I swam just for a couple years, and we were the Hamilton Tiger Sharks, obviously Tigers, and we were yellow and black colors. I played Blessed Sacrament, which was the Yellow Jackets, and we were black and gold, but basically black and yellow. Obviously the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I guess we have the Bulldogs. They don't fuck around with, they're like, I don't know if it had to do with the fact that they have a farm team, that they were the farm team of the Montreal Canadiens, but they've never really donned black and yellow as far as I know. There's the Hamilton Honey Badgers, which is the Canadian elite basketball league's team. They're black and yellow. Yeah, again, interesting. Hamilton with that affinity for black and yellow. So I digress. Since the Tigers knew that they were probably going to be coming back after World War II, depending on how many boys came home, the Wildcats had to wear that red and white, and I think red, white, and blue, to be truthfully honest. It's like a dark navy, which were, we were, I think, still flying the fucking Union Jack for a time. Like, when did Canada get our flag? But that's like basically like British colors. So anyway, when Hamilton today does these throwback games, they'll usually rock these red and white and blue jerseys, which is super jokes. And that comes from these days. So at this point, again, we got Tigers, we got flying Wildcats. We're going, what the fuck's going on here? How does the Hamilton Tiger Cats come into this shit? Well, if you take the cat and you take the tiger, you put them together, what do we get? So the Wildcats and the renewed Tigers amalgamated in 1950, so after World War II, to become the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They started playing at Ivor Wynne Stadium in 1950 as well. Ivor Wynne Stadium, my God, could probably do a fucking podcast alone on Ivor Wynne Stadium. This place was a madhouse. As far as I know, so again, it was built in late 40s, early, and the Cats played there in 1950. I think at one point it was known as Civic Stadium. Anyway, like I said, maybe I'll go into the history another time. But they used, how a lot of stadiums and fucking arenas and shit, but they'll host concerts and things. Well, I guess Ivor Wynne did for a little bit, but in 1975, Pink Floyd had a concert there, and the crowd like destroyed the field. Pink Floyd flew during their show. They have a prop airplane fly along a wire and just like crash into shit, and it crashed into the scoreboard and like fucked up the scoreboard. So the Ticats in Ivor Wynne Stadium were like no more concerts. So there was literally no concerts ever for the life, more or less the whole life, well, 1975 on at least, at Ivor Wynne, until they were going to fucking tear it down. Spoiler alert. Until they were going to fucking tear it down. And the Tragically Hip played there. So I think that was the last concert at Ivor Wynne, was the Tragically Hip show, which I wish I was at. I wasn't. I think at the time I was in London doing my thing. But anyway, it was an interesting place because there was not a lot of fucking frills. The concession stands were kind of open, like they didn't have the stadium didn't have a closed back, like you would walk underneath the seats, and it was kind of open down there. So in those late season games, like, it was pretty fucking cold. It was super fun though. Again, especially as a kid, going to these games. They didn't really have seats up. There was like box seats that had seats with backs on them, but all the other seats like were just like bench seats. So you kind of just like could chill out a little bit. People were a little bit free to kind of move around. It was a really interesting experience. Like, again, with the place not being really fancy, no one was really scared to get super fucking hammered and get after it. And Hamilton fans are really interesting. I mean, Saskatchewan Rough Rider fans are probably pretty close to Raiders fans in the fact that they dress up like crazy. But Hamilton fans are really fucking loyal. They'll really get after it. They love the party. And the stadium was kind of like a big horseshoe. So depending on where you're sitting, I think the one end of the horseshoe, so to speak, was kind of somewhat of the party zone. But yeah, I remember going with buddies and family and just like tons of fun. There was one time me and my dad and my buddy Mike Ledun, and I think either Ryan Kotar and Devin Alessi, either both of them or one of them was there too. Everyone was into it. We actually caught like a wild punt. It flew into the stands, and it was like late in the season, so we had a blanket and we were all sitting there, and fucking Mike Ledun fucking scrambled and grabbed it, and we put it and we hid it under the blanket, and like the security were coming up looking for it, and and that was fun. I hope he still has it. I hope he still has that, Mike. I'm pretty sure it was you. If not, it was you, not Ryan. But anyway, it was tons of fun. Fuck, we were probably like 6, but that was so much fun. When I was playing for the Hurricanes, Ivor Wynne Stadium was our home field. So we played a few games there. Cathedral High School here in Hamilton, they couldn't play at their stadium at their high school because one of the fucking goalposts fell over. So Iverwin was their home field too. So, again, it was the hub of Hamilton football. Once you kind of played there, it was an amazing experience. But in some ways, it felt like home too when you got to play there again. And again, I'll miss the place. They eventually tore it down, I think, in 2012, and I'm glad they built the new stadium, Tim Hortons Field, there on the same lot, which was up for debate. They didn't know where they were going to build the new the new stadium, and I'm really glad they built it there. Yeah, parking will always be questionable, but it's just a cool location, and if no one knows listening, if no one knows where it is, it's basically smack dab in kind of the east end of Hamilton, north end, right in the neighborhood, surrounded by homes. My grandmother used to live like 2 blocks from the stadium. It's so cool. People, you can pay people $10. It's probably closer to $20 these days to park on their lawns. It's just hilarious. It's an experience. You going down there. I remember bringing guys from university down there, and just, it's a beautiful experience. And for a first timer being in Hamilton, like I said, it's quite the foray into Hamilton culture. So they started playing at Iverwin Stadium in 1950, and the 50s and 60s were actually pretty good years for Hamilton. They appeared in 10 Grey Cups. They won 4 of them. During this era, the Ticats became the only CFL team to defeat an NFL team. On August 8th, 1961, they defeated the Buffalo Bills 38-21. I didn't do much more research into just this kind of tidbit, but I wonder if they played Canadian rules or if they played American rules. Where did they play? All that stuff. But it's always interesting because that debate always comes up these days. And I mean, realistically, even if you took the worst NFL team and the best CFL team, I think it would depend on what rules you play. But the only thing that would depend on is how bad the NFL team beats the CFL team. So I think if they play CFL rules on a CFL field, which is a little bit bigger with an extra guy, it might trip the offenses out a little bit. Like the NFL offense might have slight time to adjust, and there's like an extra yard for the offensive lineman. There might be a little bit of timing adjustment there. But defensively, I feel guys would eat it up. They got an extra guy, bigger field. Anyway, it's a more passing thing, less of a down. So I wonder, I'll have to have some boys on here. Jer, we're gonna have to get them back. I'd love to. We should debate on what's a better or like how would that actually go down? Like imagine what would actually happen in an NFL versus CFL game. Again, I'm thinking the fucking NFL team is gonna fuck up a CFL team today, but in 1961, fucking Hamilton Tiger Cats beat the Buffalo Bills, which is crazy to even fucking say. In 1972, they won. The Ticats beat Saskatchewan. I always want to fucking say Saskatoon when I see Saskatchewan. Anyway, I'm just traumatized. So they beat Saskatchewan in 1972 to win the Grey Cup, which is jokes. So far, they have won a Grey Cup in each decade since the 1960s. Anyway, whatever. In 1978, Harold Ballard bought the team. So Harold Ballard also owned the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time. He claimed to be losing $1 million a year owning the team. The Cats made it to the 84 and 85 Grey Cup, and in early 1986, Ballard called the team a bunch of overpaid losers, which is a fucking risky move. Like, I don't know, maybe that's some hockey shit where it's like, oh, I'm gonna fucking chirp the team and like get them going. But I'd be like, fuck this guy, bro. Like, let's just fucking smoke this guy. But it could go either way, and like, it can motivate you too. Obviously, you can be like, fuck, let's prove this guy wrong. So that's what I mean. It's this bullshit fucking reverse psychology. But anyway, so in 1986, they were played Toronto for the Eastern Final, and they beat them. So Ballard returned with, you guys might still be overpaid, but after today, no one can call you losers. So God bless, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where, you know, you got it's yeah, you're gonna work to prove someone wrong, and if that was their whole plan, they were just kind of trying to use psychology on you. Yeah, it works, but at the end of the day, you got a little animosity maybe towards the guy. But hey, if you fucking win games, you win games. And the Cats actually went on to win the Grey Cup in 1986 that year. They're actually going to be coming to our brewery, according to our beverage manager at the brewery. So, God bless. See, this is what I mean. The whole fucking city's getting into it. We got old Thai Cats coming to the brewery. The game's on. It's party time. So anyway, after the 86 Grey Cup, the team was having a bit of a slight decline in performance. Kind of moving into the 90s. They weren't really winning. They weren't really making playoffs as much. The mid-90s, Argos were making a run for the Cup. They were doing really well. And the Bills were in the midst of a 4 consecutive Super Bowl appearances. The Bills were in the midst of 4 consecutive Super Bowl appearances. So everyone was going down to Buffalo to watch the games. So it basically split attention but from the Cats. So people were starting to kind of like not really show up, which is pretty boring. So the team actually got a new coach, and they bounced back, and they won the Grey Cup in 1999. Their new coach being Ron Lancaster. Rest in peace, brother. We actually named a street by the stadium after him, and he got after him. I met him a couple times. There used to be this thing, so it would have been like 90. Maybe it would have been like 2001, but I think Ron Lancaster was still the coach at that point. But there used to be this thing called Timbits football. I mean, I'm sure anyone who's ever played hockey knows what Timbits hockey is. But there's Timbits football too, which used to be like little fucking kids, like 10-year-olds, playing football before the CFL games. You know, it was just kind of like a little bit of entertainment. And then you got to go down there and be like, oh, look at, you got to see all the players walking around. It was really fun. And what they would do is each team would like kind of be like the little Alouettes or the little Rough Riders. So I remember playing on the Alouettes. Again, just like my first kind of ever experience with football. And it was so fun. And I'm pretty sure Ron Lancaster was like around and he talked to the kids. I don't know. Fuck. Whatever. But he was a hometown hero, and I know at one point I got like there was this little plush yellow kind of like fake leather football that they used to give away at the games, and I remember getting it signed by a bunch of people, and I'm pretty sure Lancaster was still the coach at that point. So again, you know, winning a Grey Cup in 99, tremendous. So unfortunately, that year when I probably met Ron Lancaster, was actually the team had its worst year. They finished 1-17, which is actually the worst in CFL history. And I'm pretty sure that the only game they won, which was in week 14, they won like in overtime. They like barely won, so they almost went 0-18. Jesus. So anyway. God bless. Like I said, R.I.P. Ronnie. It's not your fault. So in 2004, Bob Young bought the team. And actually, shout out Grace Smith. She was telling us the story this weekend. She used to work for the Thai Cats, and Bob Young bought the team because his brother. So Bob Young is independently wealthy. He sold his tech company, and his brother was a huge Thai Cats fan. They're from Hamilton, the Youngs, and his brother's physically disabled and would always come to the games and just be like super excited and love the games. And I don't think he missed any home games. And I believe after Bob Young's brother passed away, he decided to buy the team to kind of continue on his brother's legacy, which is a beautiful story. And in 2004 is actually when Greg Marshall, my coach at University of Western Ontario, was the coach of the Ticats from 04 to 06. Actually, at that point, his son Donnie was at St. Mary's. So when I was at St. Mary's for my first year of high school, Donnie Marshall was there playing quarterback, and he stayed around. Actually, when did they go to? Yeah, so he stayed around actually after for a little bit and graduated from St. Mary's, but they had a really solid football team. In fact, that was a big reason why I even went to St. Mary's in the first place, and then they built BT and fucking split it in half, and here we are today. That's a story for another podcast. So Greg Marshall, really interesting, coming from the university. He was coaching at McMaster. He actually coached my cousin at McMaster too, but he had really great success there with the Marauders, and got the call up to the CFL, and just didn't really jive kind of with the professional level. He's definitely extremely knowledgeable, one of the most knowledgeable coaches I know, but he's kind of more used to a different type of motivation that works a little bit better, I think, with university athletes that don't really know everything about football, because he's still teaching us. But talking to a couple guys that did actually play for him, they just said at that point, when they're older and have full families and are like, doing it for a living or professionals, they're not really into getting taught as much. It's more, this goes for any professional coach in any sport. You're kind of just dealing with people's egos in the sense. You're dealing with people's skill sets that they're already fairly knowledgeable. It's just the fact that you actually have to guide them in the right direction without making them feel like you think that they're stupid. So he didn't have the best experience in Hamilton, and again, just tough years to come into. So you can't really blame him. But after that, he went back to I think after that he went right back to Western, I'm assuming, but I don't think he went back as head coach, because I think Haler was still there for a little bit, and then he moved up. I'll figure it out someday. So after finishing second in the East in 2009, that marked the 2000s as the first decade the Ticats failed to win a national championship. So up until this point, since 1913, if you want to count it that far back, they had won a Grey Cup in basically every decade, at least one Grey Cup. So 2000's not the strongest year for the boys in black and yellow. Like I said before, in 2012, the team chose to tear down Ivor Wynne to build the Pan Am Stadium for the 2014 Pan Am Games that was here in Hamilton and Toronto. Super fun. I remember going to a couple of those games, but they had soccer at the Pan Am Stadium in Hamilton, so it was really interesting. I'm seeing it that, and then they kind of had to adjust it a little bit to get it ready for the Ticats to come in. So during those construction years, the Ticats actually played at the University of Guelph. So they were up in the University of Guelph's business. It's funny at the time, because this is again 2013. So I was at Western, and I was playing for them at the time, and the general consensus with the team was we weren't really interested in having the Cats come into our business. We thought that they were going to kind of take shit over and just like be in our fucking way and take our weights and shit. But according to Guelph people, and from stuff I've heard, is that basically Guelph came out on top. They had like some upgrades to the stadium, putting more seating. They built like a separate change room, so Guelph shit never even got fucked with. So it seemed like Guelph kind of came out on top and had a good time. And again, Guelph's always had decently strong programs, and even after that, they kind of seemed to kind of springboard off that, and it was really interesting. Who knows? Maybe they got some tips from some boys. Could have happened, right? So maybe we at Western just had a little bit of a backwards look at things. But actually, in that same season, which is odd because they weren't even playing at home, they still made it to the Grey Cup, but they lost to Saskatchewan. The 101st Grey Cup, they lost. Great. Anyway, so Tim Hortons Field opened in 2014 for the Labor Day Classic, which is amazing. The Labor Day Classic is something that is extremely special with the Tiger Cats and the Toronto Argonauts. So you want to talk about some fucking old ass, just unending, embattled, never ceasing rivalries. You talk about the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Toronto Argonauts. There's beef. I mean, there's kind of like a low-key beef between Hamilton and Toronto at all points. I mean, we're fucking hardcore here in Hamilton. We're rough. We're blue-collar. We're wild. We're crazy. And then Toronto's, Toronto, fucking Stock Exchange, Bay Street, all fancy, big city dreams, big city living. And... so I think that kind of represents itself in our football teams too. And that double blue comes to town and no one fucking likes it. And it was always really fun going to some of those games. I mean, obviously not some of them in the early 2000s anyway, but again, still, even those lean years, Hamilton usually ended up trying to pull out those fucking Labor Day Classics. I don't know what the fucking running score is on those Labor Day Classics, but I think Hamilton has more wins. But it's like I believe it's like close. I don't even want to comment, but the rivalry is deep, and it was really cool the fact that Hamilton, like the first time Hamilton played at Tim Hortons Field, aka the Donut Box, was for the Labor Day Classic, and the team actually, so they beat Toronto that day, and they also went undefeated for that whole entire inaugural season, which is super sick. So they fucking christened that stadium really well. And today the Cats are who they are. A few of my buddies have played for them. Shout out Bo Landry, shout out Pavel Kruba, love you boys. Throughout the years. Anyone else? I'm sorry if I'm missing anyone else. I've had coaches who's played for them. I've worked with people who have played for them, worked with people who have worked for them. Again, Hamilton Tiger Cats are as Hamilton as Steel is, and it is really cool. I really enjoyed kind of going down memory lane and just thinking about some of the times, having fun, screaming their head off. My childhood home is not all that far from the stadium, and Gage Park here in Hamilton, I can kind of cut through there. And I remember taking buddies after having a few beverages and stumbling through the park and showing up and just having a hell of a time at the stadium. And again, just experiences and what it means to other Hamiltonians too, because it is in a tough neighborhood, and a lot of people there aren't always having the best time in life, I don't think. But during football season, come those Saturdays, people love it. And there's a Arkells song called "The Tie Cats Are Hummin'," and one of the lyrics in it is "Christmas might as well come on Labor Day," and it's one of the coolest lines, and it always makes me smile because it's true, because people get giddy, they love it. There's a buzz in the air, and talk about a buzz in the air now about this Grey Cup, and it'd be fantastic if they win. They have their fucking work cut out for them with these Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but again, it would be amazing if they pull off the win. And I've had so many memories with that team, and I've talked about how I feel about professional sports and what have you, and I'm not always so sentimental about all the teams that I do like. I like to support the sport itself and the players that are out there. But again, it was a fun walk down memory lane, and there's so many things that have happened at that stadium and will continue on those grounds. And it's a beautiful thing to see the hometown playing the national championship at home. So, hopefully the Tabbies can pull it off. B-Ry's coming into town, my boy. We're going to be fucking watching that shit. We're going to be getting after it. We're going to be getting that on the big screen. And it's going to be fucking fun. And win or lose, we drink the fucking booze, right, B-Ry? I just want to leave. And I just wanted to say, again, if you have that kind of feeling about a team, about somebody, about anything in your life, it's fun to always talk about it. And, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram if you have any suggestions about some teams that you guys love. And I want to know about their history. And there's so many things, and there's so many stories like this. And maybe someday I'll get into some more. Like I said, this is kind of the essence of being a fan of a team. There's a reason why you love them. The reason is because that's your fucking hometown. So, I'm really excited to do that. It's unfortunate that, Hamilton doesn't have any other major professional teams. I know in the past we've tried to get NHL teams. We've tried to do that in the past, but it's never really worked out. Fucking NFL team would be wild, but who knows? Maybe someday in the future. But again, you always want to root for your hometown team, and it's great to see the boys in the Grey Cup. So thank you so much for listening. Again, if you like the podcast, please go out and rate it if you can. Leave us a review. Hit that notification bell if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe to our channel. Tell your friends. Hit me up if you want to give me any ideas for topics, or let me know how I'm doing. Again, shout out to everyone who's listening. I love you all. Thank you so much. Hit me up on the Patreon if you'd like to support the podcast. Patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. And yeah, hopefully the Cats win this weekend. Again, I don't know when you're watching this, but I'll leave you with one of these. Oski wee wee, Oski wawa, holy Mackinac, Tigers, eat 'em raw. Let's go, baby. Peace.